BBC One, Mari Ashby has more surprising stories from where you live. It's Inside Out.
Tonight on Inside Out, black gold or empty promises. We're in Spain on the trail of an East Midlands businessman investigating claims that he's using this oil and gas firm to rip off British investors, and tracking down the hidden investment company that's siphoning off their savings.
I'm very angry with them. Obviously it needs to be stopped because these people are making a lot of money, probably millions of dollars, from unsuspecting people like me.
Also tonight, actor Robert Lindsay goes back to his Ilkeston roots.
I was employed by Stanton to clean out the sewers. I was shoveling
And the Derbyshire countryside that inspired an author and this Blue Peter presenter.
The house was full of lights, actors and technicians. I watched in fascination as the drama unfolded. It was an experience which changed my life.
I'm Mari Ashby and you're watching Inside Out for the East Midlands. With the financial markets in free fall and the banking system in crisis, if you've got any money to spare, you'd really want to know it was safe. But tonight we investigate why a growing number of people feel they've been tricked out of their savings. It's a story that's taken Jeremy Ball from West Virginia to southern Spain and has taught us just how careful we should be when we pick up the phone.
The financial markets here can bring huge rewards. Investors know it's a big gamble, and on exchanges like this one, it's all done properly. But we've heard claims that one man's exploiting the markets. He's the son of a Nottingham miner.
It's a story that takes us to the United States. Remember Dallas and the Ewing family, the wealthy oil tycoons. Well, now investors here are being offered a small share in that dream for as little as £1,000.
That's the actual share certificate that they send you.
Nick Atkins told me how he was cold called at his home in Lincolnshire.
The chap phoned me up, sounded very convincing, had some shares in an oil company called Tycon Energy. It's into oil exploration. It was ideal for a takeover. The shares were being sold at $3 and they was going to be floated at a $4 price.
What are they worth now?
They're only worth what someone will pay for them, and at the minute, nothing.
Nick had invested £1,000. He became suspicious when Tycon offered him thousands more shares at a discounted price. This brochure came without the detailed financial information which shareholders usually receive. And we found another man who invested £10,000 in Tycon Energy.
I've got nothing left, absolutely nothing. And I've told these people that at that stage I had a newborn son, and this is the money that I've saved up for my little boy.
But Tycon's based in a city where there's plenty of money. America's gambling capital might seem an odd place to find an oil and gas exploration company, but some of that Las Vegas glitz has rubbed off on Tycon Energy's website. The company's issued millions of shares. They're listed on Frankfurt's unofficial open market. Tycon says its seismic survey has identified potentially substantial gas reserves in this area of West Virginia, and it's got a contractual right to drill wells here. But we've found that Tycon doesn't have any current right to drill here and isn't yet registered to do business in the state. What's more, the publicity doesn't make it clear this is just a start-up business with only 6 full-time employees. The company we're investigating isn't connected in any way to a firm called Tycon Energy based in Edmond, Oklahoma, but we've discovered it does have a strong connection with the East Midlands. This is Tycon's vice president. He's Chris Burton, the son of a Nottinghamshire miner. He went to this school in Arnold where his friends knew him as Chris Kamicek. He changed his name by deed poll 13 years ago. We need to know where he is now, but first we've had a tip-off about where the cold calls are coming from. We've come to the Costa del Sol, but we won't see much sunshine or nice scenery here. We're looking for a marketing firm in a secluded industrial unit. We've been told it's really a secret office where investors like Nick are being cold called. Well, we're waiting for people to arrive for work now. We're obviously trying to keep a low profile, so we're filming through the window here. The shutters have just gone up. People should be arriving soon. As workers arrive, the metal shutters get pulled down. It's starting to look a bit suspicious. We can't go in, so we need to find people who've worked behind those shutters. One agreed to meet me behind another set of shutters on condition we disguised his identity. He's one of several people who told us they were given sales jobs promoting Tycon shares by posing as investment advisors.
You're led to believe this is a legitimate company, but when you get there, within days you realise it's not. Your job is to extract anything up to £2,000 off the people you're phoning. The whole idea is to store as much information as possible, and then the more experienced loaders, right, they'll go in and they'll extract every single penny they can get. They'll take the shirt off their back if they can.
This is the company which first made contact with a number of investors who spoke to us. It's called Ambro Investment Research. That's the name our insiders say they were told to use on the phone. But Ambro's on this warning list from the Financial Services Authority, a list that includes unauthorised firms which operate illegally. The FSA says their tactics include cold calling people to push shares which are very risky or worthless, operations known as boiler rooms. Professor Paul Barnes is a fraud expert at the Nottingham Business School. He's been researching boiler rooms for 30 years.
It does appear to be a boiler room operation. It has all the classic features of one. It represents shares in a company abroad, it's sold by some people abroad, and it is traded on an exchange abroad.
We spoke to other former Ambro insiders. One told us the Spanish industrial unit took €750,000 in just a month. Another said they were recruited through this ad in our local papers and flown out from East Midlands Airport on a promise of reliable sales work and a fun lifestyle.
Everyone's talking about drinking, cocaine. I've known loaders to sniff it off the table while they're working, making phone calls.
But he told me it's difficult to walk away.
The whole place is controlled by fear. You're frightened to leave because these guys, they've got all the information on you. And you know, they're not to be messed with.
We've heard from several former employees. Now we want to talk to the boss. We've been told we'll see him leaving the building today because it's payday and he'll deliver the wages. We soon spot a very familiar face. It's Chris Burton, the miner's son from Nottingham, who's Tycon's vice president. So what's he doing here in Spain? He says he's just stopped off to pay an invoice. But does this mean Ambro and Tycon are really just one operation with one objective, to rip off investors?
Everybody's got a false name. We're having to lie on the phone, pretending to be Ambro, this and then Tycon that. Chris is the top man. Chris is Tycon. Chris is everything.
And we soon see Chris Burton again, down the road in Puerto Banús. It's one of Spain's most exclusive Mediterranean ports. The man from Tycon seems to be doing rather better than some of his investors. We follow him to this exclusive golf village, to a villa that's well hidden away from the road and protected by private security. There's no way we can confront him here, so we'll see where he goes tomorrow. And we've got some uncomfortable questions about the Tycon Energy Corporation.
The question here is whether it is a real business or whether it is a device to extract money from investors. It would appear that it is the latter. People should obviously be concerned about that. They would find it very difficult to sell their shares.
None of those promises came through. Whatever they promised, we can't even get hold of the people. I think it's all a bunch of liars. They caused me a huge amount of aggravation. My whole family is feeling this.
Tell them to get a real job and stop conning people out of their hard-earned money and their life savings.
Chris Burton's come a long way since his days in Nottingham, the days when he was known as Chris Kamicek. Mr Kamicek, we're from the BBC. Could we just ask you some questions on behalf of your British investors? These Tycon shares you're selling, Mr Kamicek.
You're just ripping people off, aren't you? You're making a lot of money out of this. You're a con man, aren't you, Mr. Kamicek? How long's it been going on? Nice car you've got there, Mr. Kamicek, isn't it? You've got a nice villa up the road as well. How much have you made? Are you going to apologise, Mr. Kamicek?
We didn't mention Ambro Investment Research to him, but within days its website was closed down. Tycon's lawyers told us their company had no knowledge of the website's disappearance, and they said Chris Burton emphatically denies any role with Ambro. He's never controlled a team there, and the claims of using drugs, false names and intimidation are all unfounded. Tycon admits it did previously engage Ambro to promote its shares, but that stopped as soon as it realised Ambro wasn't licensed, which means it can only be a coincidence that both companies' websites were hosted from the same computer, and that an investor's email from Tycon can be traced back to Ambro's email server. Tycon told us that email could have been forwarded, and the two companies' websites could be hosted on the same commercial server, and Tycon told us it hasn't done anything illegal. We'll pass our investigation to the Financial Services Authority and the police to see if they think investors have been misled. Detectives who've investigated other companies say boiler rooms are a growing problem that's costing British victims around £500 million a year.
It's a massively devastating crime, no different from a robber walking up in the street to a little old lady, pointing a gun at them and stealing £10,000 from them. The victim suffers the same sort of trauma.
How much of a problem are the people running these boiler rooms?
We believe it's a significant threat to the United Kingdom, and one of the things we actually see is that these young kids are going out there to do what they believe is a legitimate job, only to find that they're embroiled in some serious criminality. Some get corrupted by the big party lifestyle, there's heavy cocaine usage out there, associated with a complete contempt for the victims.
Of course, investing in the markets is a risky business at the best of times. At least if you deal with experts like these, you'll know you have a fair chance. But our investigations found others are pushing shares that are just a rip-off.
Of course, there's one sure way of stopping them dead. If you are cold called with an offer which sounds just too good to be true, it probably is. So just hang up.
And you can find out more about our investigation, including more from Tycon Energy, if you visit our website.
Walk down almost any street in the UK and you'll walk past a small piece of our next story. Look carefully and you'll see the name Stanton & Staveley on lampposts and drain covers. They were made at the Ilkeston Ironworks, which in its heyday employed 7,000 people. Among them was actor Robert Lindsay, who takes up the tale of some recently uncovered film of the works.
I moved away from Ilkeston over 40 years ago, but I still come back regularly to see my dad and meet old friends.
Very good. What the hell do you think you are?
Yeah.
Hey, excuse me, is the kettle on?
No, but I can soon get it on.
Recently, I was in Ilkeston to film Who Do You Think You Are? It was a chance to learn more about my family tree, and perhaps to remember, well, possibly the worst job I've ever had, working at the Stanton Ironworks.
I was employed by Stanton to clean out the sewers. I was shoveling I went down a sewer, a manhole, and at the bottom was and you shoveled it out in a bucket, and a guy pulled it up in a bucket, and he emptied it, and he stayed down there until it was empty. But it was a summer job, and it was horrendous.
Stanton Ironworks dates back to the mid-1800s, and for generations of Ilkeston people, including my grandfather Jesse, Stanton provided work. They forged pipes and lampposts in peacetime, bombs and air raid shelters in wartime, and they also made friendships that lasted decades.
This is called the shell shop, and it's called that because it was specially built in the First World War for actually making shells for the Western Front.
Oh, really?
Jesse would make shells in here, be a fettler helping to make the shells.
A fettler?
A fettler. A fettler is a man that cleans up